Look at us. Some people are joining. That's really nice. So another episode of Weight Loss Wednesdays. And I've got my special guest, Dr. Alessia Grechi. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Good. Bring in the mic a little bit more.
Sure. Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
You know what,
this is
maybe
for
I should inch in a little bit closer.
as long as you're comfortable.
Yeah. Get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
yeah, being a doctor of TCM
Yes.
and registered acupuncturist, I wanted to talk about the role of weight loss and diet when it comes to Chinese medicine, because I like to see other opportunities or modalities and therapies that have a great understanding of why people would like gain weight over time, why certain diets are conducive to a healthy body composition or not, and maybe just your experience and what you've seen when it comes to how TCM, Chinese medicine, and acupuncture can help in someone's weight loss journey.
That's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
Where to begin, I guess. Weight loss and TCM. So I guess if I start with digestion, I mean, we don't look at nutrition and TCM in terms of proteins, fats, carbs. It's just not what we use to understand nutrition. We look at energetics.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we do understand that as well, like those components, but we look at like the yin quality of foods or the yang quality of foods, the hot or cold quality of foods. Those kind of things when we're talking about Chinese medicine nutrition, largely. The 5 flavors for sure, so acrid, bitter, sour, sweet, salty.
Yes.
And a lesser talked about, but also very important flavor is bland. That's a really big one, especially when you're talking about dampness, and damp heat in particular.
So what you're describing is
Yeah.
the individual foods have different qualities. And depending on the nature of certain foods, and maybe even in relation to an individual's constitution, their body, their requirements, and I know even in terms of like the climate and the time of year, different foods have different qualities that can either help or hinder their composition.
Yes, nothing in TCM is traditional Chinese medicine is ever good or bad. It just completely depends on you and your constitution or the pathogen you have that we need to address. So that's kind of the power of it. It's always sort of customized to you.
So let's say someone's coming in and they're like, I struggle with my weight. I think I eat pretty well. I do a little bit of physical activity, but I always seem to kind of get like a lot of like midsection weight, and my hips are a little bit bigger than I would like. What are some things that you've maybe like assessed in similar individuals, things that you highlight as like, hey, maybe watch out for this, or these are things or misconceptions that people might have?
Yeah, I mean, dampness, when we're talking about weight, we're talking about dampness as a pathogen. Maybe even phlegm for sure, which is sort of an advanced stage of dampness accumulation in the body. And dampness stagnates and it blocks. So it's really common to see that with people. Diet is like, you have to address diet. That's the biggest factor of dampness. And it tends to go down. So you see it accumulate a lot in the mid and lower areas for sure.
So is that like what someone would look for? And like if they do gain weight in that lower section, would they most likely have like what you're describing as dampness? And then, and like, so what's causing that dampness? Is it just the foods? Is it something about their metabolism?
Yeah, so metabolism's funny because it doesn't really change. I just find as the years go on, we're becoming less and less active and kind of more and more stuck in perhaps not so healthy habits. I'm sorry, what was the question?
So I want to know about dampness and why someone becomes more damp, and in relation to like their activity or foods, like you were describing.
How do you get damp? Yeah, so diet's for sure a big one. So there's external reasons why people get damp as well. Like, so that's your diet and what you're kind of putting into your body. But there's also internal mechanism which can generate dampness. So your state of mind can really run down your spleen's ability to generate strength to do digestion properly. So if you're an excessive worrier, worry and thinking is the emotion or the spirit of the spleen organ. So you see that a lot with students. Students have terrible spleen chi because they're using so much of that thinking energy to do their studies. So they're getting, sort of digestive issues like bloating, maybe tummy aches, maybe loose stool, these kinds of, maybe some brain fog for sure. That's a damp symptom for sure.
So
it means you're a good student. So
yeah.
it's kind of a sacrifice, but you want to try to address that so these symptoms aren't happening, because it's definitely an out of balance issue.
So what you're sort of describing is like maybe lifestyle or personality or actions that we do can negatively influence the organs that we rely on for proper digestion. So if you worry a lot or think a lot, you could say that maybe that's hurting your ability to digest.
I mean, people don't even sit down to eat anymore, or like what you're doing when you're eating. So if you're like watching a terrible news broadcast while you're eating, that's taking away from digestive energy. If you are watching something terrible or like stressful or like really
on your
activating, being on your phone, the best thing to do is sit at a table and like have like a social environment. That's good energy for your spleen, your digestive system. But once you start getting into your head, into your thoughts, it impairs your digestive system. And you can feel that, like, stress goes right to the digestive system. It often manifests there for people.
Okay. So like in a session with yourself, what would you do? Like, is there certain acupuncture points? Is there certain herbs that, let's say someone with this dampness, a worrier, overthinker, maybe they're in school, maybe their diet isn't perfect, but like what would what are some things that you would try to intervene?
So dampness is a water pathogen problem. It's too much yin. It's a yin pathogen. It's physiological water that has become pathological in your body. That manifests as weight gain or maybe acne. You're getting like pimples you're not liking all of a sudden. Down the line could be like cysts and other complications as well. But acupuncture is really good at addressing this water metabolism issue. It's good at adjusting those changes in your body that need to be fixed. Edema, the direction of qi that's not going in the right direction, and that's why you're getting the dampness manifesting where it's going. So acupuncture is really good. For sure, herbs. I mean, food's a big one. So herbs and food overlap a lot. Like, you can give people just basic food herbs that are very much used as medicine, but also they're used as food. And you can start that very basically, or you can go into bigger formulas to really help get that dampness eliminated, and it'll help it faster. It'll help the process go faster. But even acupuncture is really good at supplementing this. But it depends your goals and how big the problem is, for sure.
Okay. How about someone who's having a hard time gaining weight? Because we're looking at digestion, and I don't want to just like hyper focus on people want to like lose weight, but sometimes people are having a hard time either gaining weight, or even they may have a higher body weight but low muscle, and they have a little bit more body fat. What are some things that maybe in terms of TCM that they can do or identify as areas of problem or weakness?
I'd have to see that pattern, but for sure that's still a spleen issue, because spleen is fat and muscle.
I see.
So if you're not producing that, it could be there could be other reasons. It could be hyperactivity. It could be thyroid issues, or from a TCM perspective, that would be liver issues, or possibly something else. You kind of have to look at why.
Well, that's an interesting concept because a lot of people who have weight issues, they trace it back to like an underactive thyroid. So in a Chinese medicine perspective, you were highlighting, is that you're saying it's related to the liver?
Liver's a big organ that's involved in like
Everything?
everything pretty much. I mean, sometimes I feel like liver qi stagnation is a little overdiagnosed, but the reality is it's a massive organ in our body, and it has a big job to move qi in our body. So it can also bully other organs. So it can, if the qi is stagnated, it can go and sort of depending. And that can have a lot to do with emotions too, depending where it goes. But it can go and sort of affect your digestive system or other places in your body. So yeah, working with your liver is always a really, really big one.
Is there any foods that people can consume that help like support the liver in what you're describing?
Foods to support the liver, it depends the issue, like in what specific way.
I don't know, perhaps. Let's say...
So like maybe like nourishing your blood. Your liver has a big job of storing blood for you. Or not having too much spicy food, because that liver wants to go up, liver energy. It wants to go up, and we don't want that liver energy going strictly up, because that can give you irritability. It can give you insomnia. It can harass your heart and make you very agitated.
Okay.
Yeah. So So for liver, spicy food is definitely a big no-no. Alcohol, for sure. We all know alcohol, the liver in the Western medicine sense, but TCM, for sure, that causes a lot of damp heat. But it causes your liver qi to go up as well.
Okay.
So greens, so leafy greens are great for the liver.
How about
Definitely.
bitter? Is there a bitter quality in TCM?
Yes, bitter is important for lots of reasons, especially when there's heat and when there's dampness, because we're trying to get that damp down and out, and that's what bitter does. You want to be careful with bitter. But it's a really important, like Chinese cooking. There's always kind of all flavors, but they use a lot of bitter greens for that reason. I definitely recommend everyone should eat more leafy bitter greens for sure.
Okay. How about the role of like in Western medicine, we see like blood sugar or dysglycemia, where it's like maybe a pre-diabetic state. How does that translate into TCM?
Yeah, so I sort of mentioned phlegm maybe a couple of minutes ago. So there's two concepts of phlegm and TCM. There's the tangible phlegm, which is the stuff you cough up in the morning from your lungs. That's obvious phlegm. But then there's invisible phlegm. And invisible phlegm is things like cholesterol or blood glucose or masses. It could even go up and like affect mental disorders. Phlegm. This is the invisible phlegm. They didn't have words for that, a couple thousand years ago in China, but they did understand like there was this thing and it has these properties and these qualities. That's invisible phlegm. Sure. So definitely that you need herbs for. Dampness is a very stubborn pathogen to have. It takes a while to form, and it can take a little while to leave, and you definitely need the herbs mixed with the acupuncture to get that dealt with. So there's other patterns too, like blood stasis can be involved with phlegm as well.
And I think a lot of us, we look at conditions like in a very Western medical state, but as like I'm hearing you describe and express things, like you're looking at the whole person. Everyone's very individual, so it's not that you can be like, oh, you obviously fit into this pattern, you just take this and that. Like when you treat someone, you're looking at all their unique characteristics, how they're different than anybody else. So it's not like a cookie cutter, like, well, you're just going to do this formula and you'll lose 20 pounds. What you're looking at is like, I actually want to get you back into like your homeostasis, your balance.
Yeah, with TCM, you definitely want to have a very specific goal. Like, I'm coming in for this problem. Like, dampness can cause infertility. that might not be why you're in today, but it can cause that, right? So it's looking at the person and understanding their pattern, their imbalances causing the problem they're coming in to see me for. So yeah, I mean, it can be really powerful. People can walk out feeling very transformed. Yeah, and weight loss is great, especially with acupuncture. Like, I find electrostimulation is really good to help get the fat sort of awake and moved a little bit, because it can be stubborn, right?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. And I mean, it kind of segues into the last thing I want to ask about is like physical activity, whether it's either a type of exercise or movement that you find actually helps facilitate like maybe weight loss or just like that rebalancing aspect.
Yeah, so that's big. You know, in a Western med sense, we know that exercise is the best way to reuptake glucose. You need to move. But in Chinese, medicine, it's the same thing. You need to move your body. It doesn't have to be like vigorous. I feel like in the West, we're very intense. Everything has to be so extreme and hardcore, and like that's just really stressful, and doesn't have to be, it's good to challenge yourself, and you should, but like, yeah, movement's really important. I feel like a lot of this stuff is intuitive too. Like eating's very intuitive. Like sometimes the pathogens can kind of take control of the steering wheel and guide, like trick you like into eating more sugar. Or, I see a lot of people with cold phlegm and they have like a cheese addiction, like that's pathological. But without like, that, I think like you can kind of feel like when you need more vegetables, or maybe you need more protein, or, maybe you've been going a little too hard with the carbs. Like I do feel like there is an intuitive component to healing yourself. And often people see me, it really like catalyzes that. It really turns that on, and people start to see like, oh yeah, I eliminated these things you told me to eliminate, and my stomach bloating got a lot better in just a week, and then it becomes this journey, and they start learning to hear that voice and like have that body awareness, and it's really beautiful to watch. I love seeing people feeling better. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to end this.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of information, and
Yes.
I think it's I think the take home is like every individual has like unique properties that may be contributing and aggravating a state. And then I always tell people it's like when you're on an unhealthy trend, you'll tend to crave things that make you unhealthier. But then when you start making a conscious effort, you start like saying like, you know what, no, I gotta start listening to my body. I'm gonna start eating a little bit healthier, being more active. It actually helps kind of encourage and motivate good traits and good habits, which then you start to see results. So I think TCM has an amazing role in like both like understanding why someone may be gaining weight or have a certain body composition, but then also offers a lot of tools to help like correct a lot of those imbalances and then get them back on track to where they want to be.
And I'm like a good accountability body because I'm tracking you. I'm seeing you every week or maybe bi-weekly or however often. Oops.
I should have put on to do not disturb.
It's okay. No worries. So, so I can show you kind of what you've done or how it's been going for you objectively. That's helpful.
Yeah. I'll get back to that person shortly. I'll let it stop ringing. But okay, thank you, Alessia. That was really, really useful. And we'll do something like this again soon.
Yeah, that was fun.
And acupuncture with Dr. Alessia would be an amazing addition to your weight loss journey. And then we'll be back next week, I think, with Dr. Angelica to talk about naturopathic care and weight loss.
Fantastic.
All right, thanks to everyone who joined. And then if you, I'll be putting this on YouTube too. You can rewatch this in the future. Okay, thanks.